Hi everyone. Welcome to our today's live panel discussion on the topic AI and blockchain. My name is Daniela Bobak, and I am moderating today's event. With this, I would introduce our great DLT talents and speakers Zoe Fleischer, Mariana De La Roche, and Kaiti Wu. Zoe is ML engineer and data analyst at Casino St. Moritz. Mariana is a lawyer, lead project manager of the IOTA Foundation and co-chair of the Social Impact and Sustainability Working Group of INATBA. Kaiti is data scientist, business consultant and PhD candidate in environmental science at the Leibniz IGB. And so let's have a look on the agenda. First, Mariana will giving us an introduction on the topic AI and blockchain as a whole, followed by her insights on human rights and social impact of AI and DLT. Kaiti will give us an insight on nature conservation with AI and DLT. And at the end, we will have the pleasure to listen to Zoe Fleischer. She is giving us some insights on how our future could look like, how our world could look like maybe in 20 years. So very exciting topic. And at the end, you have maybe some, or maybe if we have some minutes left, we can try to answer all your questions. You can use for this our chat channel on YouTube. And if we are not able to answer all your questions, feel free to reach out. We will provide our contact details at the end. And you can also be informed that there will be, or that we have planned another AMA session on this topic, AI and blockchain, on the 8th of September. And maybe what I would like to add is, this is actually the first time for me as a moderator. And why I am telling you this is because I think sometimes you have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to try out new things because this means progress. And I mean, progress is so important in our lives. And what could be a better fit on the word progress than AI and blockchain? And with this, I would like to hand over to Mariana for the introduction.
Hello, I'm trying to share my screen because I have some slides. Can you see my screen? Like, are you seeing the slides, right? Not all my notes. Okay, thank you, Danny, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So I guess that like first I should do a disclaimer. My day-to-day work is on blockchain, not in AI, and my approach to AI has always been from the academic point of view. So bear with me on that, like for more like in-depth, like into use cases. We have Zoe here. She will just like walk us through more of those interesting areas. So so that says, the first thing that I would like to say is start with a definition. Joanna Bryson, which is my professor of ethics and digital technologies, defines intelligence as the ability to do the right thing at the right time. And artificial intelligence is then the creation of this ability, but built by us, right? So finding the right thing to do at the right time, regardless if you are a machine or a human, requires certain things. The most important is search. And that searching requires data, right? So humans have limitations in how much data they can process. Machines, well, not that much, right? Or, well, it depends on the machine. But basically, AI, with AI, we are able to collect huge amount of data and learn from it and produce an outcome. So long story short, with AI, we require a lot of amount of data that then is analyzed and then process it through a learning process, supervised and unsupervised. We don't have time to cover that here, but like you can make questions for later on. And then at the end of this process, the idea is to have an outcome. And what is important to note is that learning is not just memorization. It requires the representation, acting, and feedback incorporation. And that process can lead to a better decision making. So basically, what you need to know is that in AI, there is a huge amount of information and data involved. And now the question is really like what happened to our data, how we protect the data, and more important, like how we protect our data when our data is involved in that process. And here is where blockchain has a significant role. So blockchain, from my perspective, help to do two things. The first one is that provides AI with access to a large volume of trustworthy data, and therefore it helps to scale and to provide more actionable insights, manage data usage, and model sharing, for example. And the second one, which I think is more important for the topic of these sessions, is that it creates trustworthy and transparent data economy. And basically what this means is that blockchain mitigates some of the risks produced by the AI and big data in terms of ownership and data protection, because we can control who sees our data, with whom we share, and which parts of the data we are sharing. So as this is an MI session, and you hear like it's going to be a second round, like I'm just bombing you with like basic of the basics, so you can just like get curious and make more questions and maybe just like connect the dots into what we are going to discuss. But I also supposed to talk about a little bit about blockchain, AI, and social impact in human rights. And I always find that the better way to do this is actually with an example, because it's like easy to visualize how these two things come into reality. The example that I'm going to refer is a project that we have right now at the IOTA Foundation, but it only uses blockchain. However, I really believe that this project scales from the pilot phase that is right now. It should be incorporated. It should incorporate AI, at least from my perspective. So we have a project which is working in sustainable mining. And basically what we are doing is creating digital twins of mines around Europe and collecting data via sensors and human input about the conditions of the mine to measure the environmental impact, among other things that we are measuring there. One of the data that we are collecting actually is the heartbeat of workers. And the idea of doing this is that we can alert them when they're like experiencing fatigue inside the mine, or is any alteration in their heartbeats due to the air conditions of the mine or any other change in the mine. So imagine that we are not collecting data of 7 mines as we do right now, but hundreds around the world. This data can then be used by health professionals, researchers, and mine engineers. But this is insane amount of data, like it's big numbers what we are talking here. So AI in this case can help us to make sense of that data. We're creating models and supporting decision-making for future or more sustainable mining operations. While on the other hand, blockchain can protect the privacy of the individuals from whom we are collecting the data and that are providing the data with us. But also on top of that, we can, if we want, tokenize that data so they get rewards for sharing that data. And this model is not new. So I didn't came with this model out of the blue. This model has been used already for different organizations and startups. One of them, if you want to Google, is called Built-in. I can share links after. And basically, there are startups that what they're doing is allowing patients to share data with health professionals. So the health professional access the data, and then they decide if they buy, sell, or trade patient data for different studies, for example, to learn more about a specific disease. However, because this also has blockchain, lets the patients to keep private their personal identifier information by only sharing the big picture of the health data. So most of the AI and blockchain integrations that I have seen are normally deployed in the health and supply chain industry because of the need of like keeping private certain parts of the information, while also like having the massive need of sharing information with like multiple partners, but only specific parts. And then what the integration is going for in both industries is to access, as I mentioned, big amount of data to make sense of this data for different purposes, like health and supply chain have like completely different purpose, while protecting and providing incentives to the people that is generating the data via the blockchain. So I'm sure Kay and Zoe will refer to some of the use cases later from other industries. So this like I'm really interested to just like see other like experiences here. But all of this just to say that from my perspective, the potential of artificial intelligence and blockchain integration is huge because it improves decision-making processes in a variety of industries while protecting our data, and in some cases providing incentives to the people that is like giving the data, which at the same time breaks down the traditional model of big companies using and selling our data without us not even noticing or getting any benefit out of it. And with that, like strong statement. I will just like open for discussion, I guess.
So the data you are collecting, do the people actually consent to giving that data away?
Of course,
it's very personal, like heartbeat is like very personal medical data, right?
Yeah, of course, the project has a whole ethics committee. So the ethics committee is working not only with like the people in the mine, but we have like lawyers that are advising also in GDPR. And of course, this is like not like normal data that you are collected, it's sensitive data. So have a second layer of regulation protecting it. And they need to give a specific consent for us to access that data. And you need to tell them where are you storage data, for how long are you storing it, and for what are you using it.
Mm-hmm. So are you compliant to delete the data every now and then, or can you keep it forever?
I think that that's some of the things that we just need to define. I know that the ethics committee for this particular project is still defining these specifics. I will say that you cannot keep it forever. Like it would make sense.
Yeah, because I'm also using like a lot of wearables, and they share the data with me too. But I'm like, yes, but you also have it. You give it to me, but you also have it. And
no, like the thing is like this project is like a coalition of more than 80 organizations working together, and is funded by the European Commission. So if one thing that they pay attention is that the ethics committee is like actually like doing their work. So there is like clear understanding of like for how long the data is going to be storage and with whom is going to be shared. This is not going to be shared with like everyone that comes and just like ask, just I want to just like have the data because of this YZ. No, it's like for the partners of the project. And as I said, it's just like for the purpose of understanding the conditions of the mine and how the mine is impacting the health of the workers, and therefore improve the operations that they are conducting in the mine by doing like improvements in the infrastructure of the mine or the ventilation, for example.
Yeah, I think that's really important to have like a ethical purpose in mind when collecting that data, other than like all these people I see running around with their smart watches. I'm like, do you guys actually know where all that data is going? Like that they're collecting about your body?
Yeah, well, they don't have a blockchain integration there. I think that's a big mistake.
They don't.
Cool. So is there any plans of what you do with the data, like for how long you can keep it, and is that required when you are running such projects?
It is required to have like those kind of like regulations established because by GDPR, especially like there are like certain types of data, like for example, like faces or like heartbeat or like health conditions. They have like as I said, like a second layer of protection under GDPR. So they're like sensitive data, and you need to have like these ethics committees, and you need to have like written consent and specific consent. So you cannot say like, I'm collecting your data. Ha! No, you need to say, I'm collecting this data, I'm collecting it like this is where I'm going to storage, this is how I'm going to use it. So the regulation is like more specific, and this is of course at the European level, but well, the mines for now are like here in Europe. So of course, like if the project extends the idea, or I think it will be coherent to follow the same regulations that we have here in Europe.
Perfect. Thank you, Mariana, for your introduction and your insights. And with this, I would like to hand over to Katie. It's your stage.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Daniela. And thank you, Mariana, for the exciting content. Yeah, I was also feeling quite nervous when I thought about the opportunity to track my brain data and use it somewhere. And then calculating with so many other computers around the world. So to start with my talk, I would kind of introduce myself. I am an environmental scientist, and my work has been more into understanding local usage patterns in like nature, in terms of how nature is preserved and used by people. So I am a little bit in the opposite of what Mariana is thinking about. Comparing to a global scale, I think more about how can blockchain be used in a local scale, and how gamification can be helping gathering more resources into nature conservation efforts using blockchain. With this, I will share briefly my slides. Hold on a second. Is it okay? So nature conservation with AI and DLT, as Mariana has already mentioned, blockchain is used for permanent storage and rewarding systems. It would be a very ideal device or system to store these data that would be collected by local people or anybody who is participating in a local nature conservation project. And also AI can be used to make decisions or game rules when it comes to nature conservation projects and engaging people and incentivizing people to take part in different local cultural nature conservation oriented activities. There's a lot of projects surrounding nature conservation we can see in the current blockchain system. There's including biodiversity offsets, carbon credit offsets, as well as quite a new subject, but not yet implemented anywhere as far as I know, ecosystem service accounting. So what is ecosystem service? Ecosystem service is something like if we go to a park, as researcher as I would see it as a green infrastructure. And if we go to next to a lake, for me, it would see like a blue infrastructure, and I would study how you use the space around the blue infrastructure or green infrastructure. And these assets are being accounted and so that it can be better managed by related parties. So why are these games important? I would like to bring into this attention of citizen science projects where citizen scientists, for example, normal people who are not engaged in science, and if they're interested in engaging in science, they can always take part in environmental citizen science project. Because I'm an environmental scientist, of course, I would be talking about environmental subjects. So they can be counting birds, they can be counting different butterflies or doing different experiments for scientists, or even measuring the temperature and everything that they can do. And these things can be recorded on the blockchain and be a data source for gaming, for research, for a lot of different purposes that is possible. There is a lot of projects out there that is, there are some projects out there that is really interesting, then I would encourage you to look into that. And what this does, where I see the opportunity is that it compounds local efforts into global solutions, because you can imagine, like what Mariana had said, if we do a project in Europe, it would have a European standard of how the data is protected and how things can work out. But if it can be somewhere else in the world, it has to be adaptive to local conditions and local cultures and how things work. That's why it has to work in a local format. But all in all, to have people engage in nature and engage in nature conservation related projects and make their impact in their own way. So for this, I would stop share my screen and start the discussion.
I was still thinking when you were talking in a couple of projects that I know that are like, I wouldn't call it gamification, but it's still like have like this idea of that, like you do something and then get you just like certain reward, that I think that also come with like the gaming a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I checked one project today that basically what you do is create it's a project now. So like what they did was creating a challenge for a community, and they asked the community to contribute with like certain kind of donations, and each donation was destined to just plant a tree. And what they get like is a certificate on the blockchain of the tree with like metadata about like where the tree is, which kind of tree is, and which land it is, and everything. And what they were doing with that is avoiding greenwashing, because those certificates, like if you give it in paper or just send it via email or a PDF, it's like super easy to just like copy paste and replicate, right? But if you have it in like in the blockchain with like an identifier, like no one else can have like the certificate, right? So I think that like, and I completely agree with you that there is a lot of potential to just like do this kind of implementations like that. There's another one that like is basically you donate tokens, and then there are machines opens, and then food comes down and they feed a sheep. So you can see directly what is the impact of your donation, which I found like, of course, this is a funny project. I always put as example as a funny project, but like the potential behind this is massive, because this allowed, like, if we implement this like in different scenarios, like you stay replicated in other places, then what you're doing is just like giving the donors the opportunity to just like see what are they doing with their money, right? Which like can increase the impact.
That's very true. So it's the transparency nature of blockchain, right? The blockchain system, it's like where it's very clear where the resource is going to. But when I mentioned gamification, it not necessarily has to do with only with games that we're aware of, because gamification can be anything that incentivizes people to do anything. So as long as you're in a group, you're kind of in a game setting, no matter where you are, and you're always incentivized to do things that are beneficial for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good idea to implement these, can you call that subtle gamified systems, and for these projects. I mean, it's very interesting what you talk about. I also saw this tree planting project, but I was just imagining how can we move further than just relocating resources and using different ways to donate money. I mean, yeah. I mean, but I think that project is still important, because it makes people to learn different options of how money can be distributed, and then really benefit from the nature of having a transparent platform to show where the resources are going to. So definitely a really cool project to look into, yes.
I guess that if you want to just like talk about like grouping, like groups and benefits of being a group, then it's just like more like how to implement those theories into a DAO or a DeFi. Like I see that completely related then.
Sure. Like how it can be curated in a way that is focusing on nature conservation, for sure.
I think that there are DAOs already completely focused on that. Like I think, no, I'm sure.
Yeah, there are several ones, for sure. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Katie, for your insights. Super interesting field, I think. And with this, I would like to hand over to Zoe. And yeah, Zoe, it's your stage.
Thank you. So after we've heard some very specific, like real case scenarios, I would like to take you away a little bit into more surreal scenarios and talk about some long-term effects of the crossover of blockchain and AI. So my expertise is like I work in machine learning and data, but I also am very much into AI research, specifically in the fields of biohacking and biotechnology and neurotechnology. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think it's never too late to ask the questions like, where is this technology leading us? So there's 3 scenarios I want to kind of lay out when it comes to the crossover of AI and blockchain, and why blockchain is so super important in this development. So the first thing is that AI has developmental stages, right? So right now we are in the very first stage of the development of AI, which is called narrow AI. And this means that it's just still not as smart as a human. Once, when a moment in time is reached that is coined the singularity, we will have an AI that actually is as smart as a human. And I think when that moment is reached, it is very important to know who has created this AI, who has fed the data with which interests in their mind. And there is pioneers in the space that I really love, that really inspire me, like Ben Goertzel and his company, the Singularity Net, who are already saying like, this is the moment where we need to start decentralizing the process of creating an AGI, artificial general intelligence. Because we cannot allow that this powerful tool is being created by a centralized entity that has a commercial or very egocentrical purpose in mind. So yeah, I really encourage you to look into that project and to understand how important it is that all of us, like, communally contribute to creating this AGI, and yeah, just make it more benevolent towards the entire humanity. Another thing that I think is very important that we already touched upon is bio-wearables. So we already all wearing smartwatches, we're tracking what's happening in our bodies, and soon this will develop very quickly. We're going to have implants, we're going to not only track our physical stimulus, but maybe also our psychology. And if you add AI, algorithms to that analyze the data. We are looking into having algorithms that will know our bodies better than any doctor or any psychologist. They will actually be able to diagnose us and tell us what's wrong with us or what's right with us. And once that moment is also reached, you really want to know that you own that data and that nobody else, not that person that produced that smartwatch, has access or knowledge about your most personal thoughts and health details. So it's super important also to have blockchain integrated into biotech here. And the last scenario I want to paint is like more global. So I'm talking about governance and actually governmental processes, political processes moving onto the blockchain, which is already happening. And I think this is like a globally very powerful process because it will so much increase trust and transparency between governments and people and allow us to have true democracy because we can actually have insight into everything that is happening in the governments. Because right now there's so much distrust, but imagine there was an app where you could go into and just track where your tax money went. Like, which way did it go? What was paid with it? Maybe you would give your money away much happier just knowing where it's going. And in the long term, I see algorithms being able to actually take over the processes and lead entire countries with humans obviously being able to contribute to decision making on the blockchain. And there is small scale projects like this already happening that developed like whole governmental processes for small communities, and they're being implemented and tried. Like, for example, seeds is one of them. So this is, very, very interesting scenarios that I see happening with my optimistic timescale in about 20 years. So I'm curious to know, what do you, Mariana and Kaiti, think? Is this something that is going to be happening? Do you see it developing in that direction, or do you see it steering in another direction? Or when do you think we will actually arrive in this kind of Black Mirror world?
I think that you used the right word, and it's optimism. Because I think that like at the end, like technology is a tool, right? Like it is good or bad, and it just depends on what we do with it. And there is like, especially when you talk about like government, like I see a lot of potential in decentralized governance and what is going on with the DAOs, and it's a process that I really, really like enjoy and support all in, because it's just like giving back the power to communities. Putting that into a government form, like I think that you will need to just like create revolutions, because the people on the top won't be really happy about this. And at the same time, it's just like more than just like thinking like where the taxes are going, is just like how we just like design tools for accountability. Because if we have accountability, we just don't need to track the taxes. It's just like we know exactly what is going on there. And I think that that's maybe realistic is the wrong word, but it's something that I see more close. For example, a friend of mine has like this amazing idea, and we are always discussing about that, of how actually to use AI to just like be able to track political speech in different medias. So by tracking the political speech, you can just like understand where a politician stands today and where it stands tomorrow. But that you can actually just like keep them accountable of what they are saying and promising to the people. Doing that like by like training an algorithm to just like go into the newspapers and read and just like recognize like when is this person saying something and how has been like the model of the speech. That's something that I see happening. Accessing to taxes is something that like I don't see how, because like also like dealing with like all the bureaucracy of a government to actually access the data is just, it's not even that you cannot, like the data is not there, is that you won't be able to access it. So it's just like more like, I like the Black Mirror scenarios, but like I always try to just like keep my feet on the floor to see where we stand and actually how with what we have right now we can create impact. But of course, like that's the beauty of our expertise. You are just like talking about like this disrupting technologies, and my thing is just like what I can do right now with what I have.
Yeah, you're the lawyer. You're like, these are the constrictions of your ideas.
No, I wouldn't say it like that, but like I do think that revolution starts with yourself, and like we need to do what we can with the resources that we have. And so yeah, of course I'm all in for like changing things, but like I'm super conscious that like me, Mariana, I'm just one person that have limited power. So
yeah,
how
but
can I
governments
change it
have
with
been
that?
using blockchain. This is a process that's already happening. Like there's a few examples out there, like Mexico, Quintana Roo is like starting to build stuff on Avalanche, like to move their process onto Avalanche. In Dubai, there's massive processes, governmental processes being moved on the blockchain. So I do see this like happening, not in Europe so much, yeah, but in more progressive kind of places I've seen.
I wouldn't call Mexico progressive. I'm from
I mean,
not to be offensive to anyone, but like I know how the region works. But like Europe is actually like using a lot of like blockchain for identity, for example. There's like countries already that are switching to for like digital identities. There is a lot of going on with supply chain in Europe as well, especially UK, and also with integration of like some African countries, like TLIP is an amazing project that is going on right now with that. So those are like cool examples of like successful use cases that are already here. I see Danny, and when Danny appears, I think that something's going on with the time, so I'm gonna.
No worries. I just maybe give Katie the chance to also ask a question on it, or maybe just share your thoughts on what Zoe just mentioned.
Oh, you're so kind. Yeah. Well, no, I was actually enjoying their discussion because I'm actually more optimistic in terms of where we're going, because of course this Black Mirror scenario is out there, it's in our minds, but we can also remember that we are also learning as a human race, and yeah, I have a lot of faith in our human race to learn as faster than AI, and let AI always learn from us. So I really like what Zoe is sharing, but I really I'm more on the optimistic side, and even if it's like what Mariana said, it might be shorter than 20 years that we get there. But I mean, we are humans. We can make choices. So, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
Perfect. So, ladies, we are at the end of our time at the moment already. Thanks for your insights and sharing your experience so far with us. And I just want to share my screen for a second to giving the audience the chance to connect with us. Yeah, you can see the QR codes, just scan, and you are finding us on LinkedIn, all of us. And you can also see Kiana Weiss on my slide. She's in the background at the moment. She is with the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center and is so kind to support us in the technical area here. So thank you very much, Kiana, for your help. And yeah, with this, I would like to end the session. I just want to let you know that we are planning on the 8th of September another session. Feel free to reach out to us, ask more questions. And if you have an idea on what specific topic on AI and blockchain and DLT we should discuss, just let us know. And yeah, so with this, thank you very much, ladies. And I wish you a lovely evening to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have fun.
Bye.